The question is that the document be noted. The member for Fowler.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Obviously, everybody in this House is really passionate about addressing this housing shortage crisis at the moment that we're all hearing from our community. And I have no doubt that many members of the House here either probably own the house outright or have a small mortgage. And so it's probably not as big of a challenge for many of us in this House as much as for the rest of the Australian population. Deputy Speaker, the government's new 5% housing deposit scheme is being championed as a breakthrough for first-home buyers, with years shaved off deposit savings, no lender's mortgage insurance and no income cap. It really sounds terrific. It's easy to see the appeal. Just a 5% deposit and you're told you can finally buy that home. On paper, it's a dream come true. But in my electorate, residents are asking, if we're struggling to save 5%, how will we ever manage to manage the remaining 95% of mortgage debt and the decades of interest that will follow? Over a 25 to 30-year loan, the bank stands to earn hundreds of thousands in interest, while homeowners bears enormous financial risk. This 5% doesn't really fix the root problem, which is supply. And the 5% doesn't even guarantee that you can actually buy the house, because the bank still has to assess your serviceability of the loan and your ability to pay it. So, Deputy Speaker, what we're really seeing is a scheme that supercharges demand but does nothing for supply. And I have constantly spoken in this House about the need to address the lack of supply, the infrastructure that we need, the roads, the public transport, such as the East-West Metro to connect Western Sydney, South-Western Sydney to the Western Sydney International Airport. We need to address the whole infrastructure before we actually build homes. Evidence backs this up. Independent modelling from the Insurance Council of Australia and Lateral Economics warns this expansion could push house prices up by as much as 10%, and we've heard that from the member of Kennedy. Entry-level homes, where first home buyers compete, will see steepest hikes. Price rises from between 3.5% and 6.6% nationally, even higher in our capital cities. Yes, family may save $21,000 to $28,000 on mortgage insurance, but many will watch their home's price climb quite significantly, leaving them worse off. Apparently, there's a research from Professor Chris Lishman at the University of South Australia forecasts similar impacts. Deposit schemes can drive prices up by 7 to 10%. And international evidence from New Zealand shows that when deposit access was eased, prices soared and home ownership among young people actually fell. And the other thing is, why October the 1st? What's this need to announce that from the 1st of October it'll be, people can finally save up, can put a deposit for 5%? How difficult is it if people can realise how difficult it is for people to save up 5% in the first place? That 40, for a median house in Fowler currently is around $1 million. So, and for electorates like mine, it's going to be a huge challenge. And you don't need to be an economist to see the flaw. When you add demand to a market that's already short on supply, prices will certainly rise. The Australian Housing and Urban Research Institute highlights this repeatedly. Treasury and the Housing Industry Association both project it could take 3 to 6 years for any real supply response, if it comes at all. In the meantime, affordability only worsens. Now, this isn't a theory for people of Fowler. In my community, overcrowding, rising rents and the shortage of new homes are daily realities. Quick fixes that don't ease that pressure. What family needs are long-term investments in new supply, local infrastructure and genuine affordability measures. Now, and I have mentioned over and over again, infrastructure is critical for any housing development. If we don't have the infrastructure, we're not going to be able to address the housing shortages, in addition to the workforce shortages as well. And migration as another dimension. Migration is one of our greatest strengths, filling skills gaps, growing our economy, enriching our communities. And in electorates like Fowler, it's evidence of that. Our wonderful multicultural community contributes greatly to our diverse economy, our city, our community and our state and nation. But when growth outpaces planning and investment in schools, hospitals, transport and especially housing, the affordability squeeze intensifies. My constituency is every day. Poor planning means rents and house prices spike, and both new arrivals and long-term residents struggle. Deputy Speaker, last week's Housing Industry Association Forum, industry leaders were clear. The 5% deposit scheme in an already tight market will only drive prices higher. The HIA has confirmed that Australia needs at least 83,000 more tradies in the years ahead just to keep pace with construction needs. And when it comes to housing, the National Housing Supply and Affordability Council projects a shortfall of over 200,000 homes by the end of the decade. Some industry bodies warn the real gap could be up to 400,000 dwellings. The government's own target of 1.2 million new homes by 2030 looks increasingly out of reach, while these workforce and supply constraints go unaddressed. So let's be honest, the 5% deposit scheme by itself is not a solution. It's a demand booster, a headline, not a fix. Real solutions require investment in building new homes, training local workers and thoughtful, coordinated planning to match migration with infrastructure. Affordable housing is the bedrock of health, education and strong families. I arrived here as a refugee, and I had very lucky back in the days in the 70s and 80s when we were able to live in a housing commission, and it gave my mum, my late mother, the opportunity to work in kitchen, in restaurants, and us, my sisters and I, to work towards buying our first home. But back in those days, a house was about, in our area from around 80 grand to 100 grand to 200 grand. Now it's just in the millions. It's just really out of reach for any new arrivals, I believe. So to build a future where no family is left behind, we must match words with actions, short-term promises with long-term solutions, demand with supply. My community in Fowler is not asking for another scheme. They're asking for real solutions. So please don't give people false hope. And I think I will call both the Labor and Liberals here to really stop finger-pointing one another and focus on really addressing the issue at hand, and focus on policies that are practical, implementable, affordable, accessible and impactful for the Australian people and the Australian economy. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.